Away we go.
We just got that. Great. And I can see there's attendees now as well. There's 20 attendees in the room. So I think, Jeanette, we're ready.
Okay, so again, I will call the meeting and say bienvenidos a todos. Welcome everyone. And we'll have Nance call the roll.
You know, Chair Dillman, I checked everybody off. I see their faces. And so everyone is here that should be here.
Away we go.
Well, there's 20 attendees in the room. So I think.
I did miss, do we have the flag?
Yes, I'll go ahead and put it on the screen.
Okay. And I'll have Vesta lead this. She's very good at this. So go for it, Vesta.
Is on mute.
Are you there? You're on mute, Vesta.
Oh, there I go. Sorry
There-
about that. All right.
All right.
I pledge allegiance to the
Allegiance
flag
Flag
Of
of
the
the United
States
States of America and
and
to
to
the
the
republic
republic for which it
for
which it
stands,
stands,
one
one nation,
nation,
under
under
God,
under God,
indivisible, with liberty
liberty, and
justice for all.
justice for all.
for all. Yay. Play
Okay.
ball.
So we'll move on here to the approval of the agenda. I will tell you, before I ask for the motion, I would just like to say that due to a scheduling conflict with the septic ombudsman report with Alicia O'Laughlin, we're moving her up to informational after the chair and before Supervisor Hopkins. So I will call for a motion to approve.
I
the-
so move. Nichols.
Okay, Mike Nichols move. Vesta is seconding. All in favor, can we raise hands? Is that okay?
Should be by a roll call vote.
Yeah, it should be. Okay. I think you're muted, Nance.
Nance, you're muted if you're doing the roll call.
I just thought I thought I clicked it off. Okay, Jeanette Dillman,
Here,
Claudia Sissenfeld,
I mean in favor.
yes. Vesta Copestakes,
Yes.
Lucy Hardcastle, Cynthia Strecker,
Aye.
Jordan Lebovich,
Aye.
Pip Marquez de la Plata. Pip, are you an aye? Okay, I see a hand raised there.
Aye, sorry.
Ron Redmond
Aye.
and Mike Nichols.
Aye.
Chair Dillman, could I just go back 1 second? I guess I didn't realize that, I thought Lucy was here. Is there an alternate attending for Lucy tonight that I actually missed? Okay, thank you. Roll
Okay.
call completed.
Okay, so any statements of conflict of interest of anything that's on the agenda this evening? Okay. So we'll move on to correspondence. There were 4 letters. Susan Joyce, who's with concerned about the timber harvest plan, sent a letter regarding the infringement on Neely Road with the timber harvest plan, and spoke to that and provided a great letter. And Lloyd Guccione sent a letter regarding the new postal boxes. And John Nuniak, there was a letter from Lloyd regarding John's concern about the traffic problems and speeding and accidents at the Rio Neto entrance. And Jennifer Wirtz sent a letter regarding the CARES Act small business grants. So Elise was going to attempt to respond to some of the requests that they made. So go for it, Lise.
Thanks, Jeanette. Usually we simply have the correspondence as a notification and included in the packet. But in this case, for the timber harvest plan, Supervisor Hopkins asked me to attend a tour of the property along with Sonoma Land Trust. And we went with some foresters and the owners of the property, Redwood Empire, to view what their plans were. So I just wanted to take this occasion to briefly comment on the concerns. First of all, there are concerns about the clar tree and it possibly being cut down. The clar tree is protected and will not be cut down under this timber harvest plan. Actually, there are quite a few protections that are done under timber harvest plan rules. And one of them is that the oldest growth trees in an area, in a parcel, cannot be harvested. They harvest younger trees and not the old growth trees. Secondly, the concerns about Neely Road. There are two concerns about Neely Road. One was that harvesting timber along the embankment above Neely Road would cause erosion that would cause slides. That was the main concern of Joyce's letter. Because of the instability of that slope, Redwood Empire had already decided that that was not going to be included as an area to be logged at all. So then that whole section is not going to have any timber harvest, and there will be no impact upon that slope in the road from that. The second area of possible impact is with trucks coming out, loaded trucks coming out and going over that road to bring timber out. 2/3 of the trucks going out will be going out the Mays Canyon entrance rather than the Neely entrance. The vast majority of the timber will be going out Mays Canyon. And our head of transportation and public works, Johannes, has assured me that he's been in contact with the owners as well as county council to mitigate any impact of heavy trucks on Neely Road. The next thing that people were concerned about was the impact overall of the cutting of the trees. And as I mentioned in the beginning, there were a couple of foresters involved in the tour that we took. This is not going to be any kind of clear cutting. They have selectively chosen trees that will be individually, singly cut. This same organization did the same kind of cutting in 2001 and 2008. And so no cutting will be visible from outside the property. And the foresters who were there said that the thinning that is planned is actually quite healthy for the forest and will be a benefit rather than a deterrent. So that was the upshot of my tour of the area. I just wanted to let you know, since I had recently done that tour and the letter was in there. That's my comment on correspondence.
Okay, thank you very much. I have to say one glaring error here to the agenda is that we neglected to put public comments in the agenda. So can we proceed with public comments without going through a formal approval to do this?
Jeanette, we could. I wanted to ask Elise a question, if possible,
Oh,
about her.
okay, I'm sorry. I didn't see your hand. Okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
You know. By the way, my internet connection is a bit unstable, so I missed just a little bit of what you were saying. But when I read Ms. Joyce's letter, I became concerned when she was talking about the possible collapse of Neely Road. And of course, I flashed to the collapse of Moscow Road and what an extraordinary difficulty that remains. And so I just wondered if people had looked at that, thought about that, I'm
That
not
must be
sure
the-
that Neely Road, pardon?
That must be the part that you missed. So I said that first of all, there is not going to be any cutting over Neely Road, and so therefore there won't be any impact of slides on Neely Road. And secondly, Johannes is working with the owners and county council to make sure that any truck traffic is bearable on the road, but most of it is going over Maze. So both of those issues have been addressed.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
Okay, thank you. So I would like to proceed with public comments, and this is the time for the public to comment about items that are not on the agenda. And you're allowed, each person is allowed 2 minutes to speak. So you have any hands up, Leo?
Just give me one moment. I'm going to update the timer and I'll take a look to see if anybody has their hands raised. Okay, let's see. I do see 2 hands raised, so we'll start with John Uniacke. John, I'm going to go ahead and let you speak, and I'm going to put the timer on the screen, so just be aware that it may switch over.
My major concern is the input of what will happen with the sewer district, because you're cutting trees on their property where they put their effluent. And I didn't hear anything about that. So I was wondering if you have something to report about any adverse operation on the effluent spraying on that property.
I don't, can you, let me ask you a little bit about your question. So they're not cutting directly around the sanitation. They're cutting up into the hills up and around. So I'm not sure
Okay.
how
The-
you feel. You
The
know,
so-
perhaps you could email me your question, John, and I can get a specific answer for
It's
because I don't know
pretty,
the
it's
answer to it.
it's pretty easy. The silver property is where the summer spray of the sewer plant goes.
I know that, but it's
Okay,
still,
so
I don't know
what,
the answer to your question.
okay, so you don't have an answer to what adverse, because the trees suck the water. If the water doesn't get sucked, it flows out over the land and does bad things.
Okay, send me your question by email and I will send it on to Redwood Empire and get you an answer, John.
Thank you.
There was another hand, but it looks like that person has put their hand down. So I think you can proceed now.
Okay. We'll move on to the consent calendar then. Get moving here. Approval
Of the minute?
of the minutes. Got the wrong page here, sorry. Do we have a motion for approving the minutes for the October?
Again, might I ask a question about the minutes?
Sure.
Sure. Okay. And this actually isn't with the minutes, but with the reports that went into the board. And I noticed that the report, I wonder if perhaps a page was left out or something, because I noticed that the report that went into the board regarding the lodge at Russian River listed only the positives that we had identified and none of the concerns that were also brought.
I don't believe that's in the minutes.
Chair Dillman, could we maybe just, Cynthia, is it okay to just focus on the minutes first, and then when she moves on to the board report, you could bring up your question? Would that be okay?
You know
So I don't
what?
get confused.
Yeah, I'm going to put myself off video, okay, in the hopes that my internet clears up a little bit. So if you would just repeat it. Thank you.
Okay, so any, Claudia?
I was just gonna make sure, I believe that within the consent calendar, there's actually 3 items.
Yes.
So are you wanting to just vote on each individually?
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
So we're on minutes right now. October minutes. Do we have?
Okay, thank you. I missed that. Then we should move on and wait for my question on reports.
Yes, thank you. Perfect. So do I have a motion to approve the minutes? Vesta? In a second? Pip will second. Vesta moves to approve the October minutes. Okay, and then we'll move on to to approval of the annual report. And I believe that's what Cynthia's talking about. But there are some inaccuracies in the annual report. And if you have your report there handy, on page 41, number 5F. On accomplishments, it states the land use ad hoc reviewed and recommended approval of the lodge at Gernwood Park, approved by the Lower Russian River map. This did not occur. I have, and as well as the vice chair and the past chair, have gone over the documents thoroughly. This document was never presented to the board, and there has been no MAC approval of this at all. What happened was that it was scheduled for the August meeting, and that meeting was canceled at the last minute due to evacuation, and the document never appeared before the MAC again. So that's one part of it, and then there's another part is well, I guess what I'd like to say about that item, sorry, here I'm a little confused. That is what the statement said. And what we're recommending to replace it with is the Land Use 2020 Ad Hoc Committee heard a requested presentation by the lodge at the Russian River Gernwood Park and completed a report. A full MAC public hearing is tentatively scheduled in January of 2021. And that's where we are now. And
So,
then,
Chair Dilbin, if I
Yes.
may, I would recommend that the report be pulled from the packet and that the new report be completed at the completion of the January 2021 meeting, when the business of the ad hoc is actually completed. The report had some errors, and it appears that a wrong draft was forwarded and it inadvertently was inserted into the packet. And I apologize for that. That was not the draft that was supposed to be published.
Okay.
okay. Any comments
Yes.
on that?
Yeah. No, thank you.
All right.
Okay, so because this concerns the land use, that we're able to complete that after the 21st special meeting, is what you're saying?
Yes, yes,
I
please.
think that would be the easiest way to deal with this.
Thank you. So I move that we pull the land use 2020 ad hoc report from the packet and exclude it from the approval process that we'll be going through.
So you only want to pull the land use document out of the
That's
annual?
all, that's all that I'm requesting, yes.
Okay, that makes sense. Any comments?
It sounds as though Cynthia had an issue as well, and so I'm thinking maybe we should
Okay.
pull the entire thing and review it and have it at the next meeting. We have time.
Okay, are you saying to pull the whole document?
Yep.
The whole annual report?
Yep.
Not just the land use?
Well, as I said, Cynthia had an issue with her report as well, and so
Oh,
No.
I think it's with the land use.
He was
Yeah,
talking
it's-
about land use.
Yeah.
Land
Okay.
use only.
Yeah, and I think that Mike took care of that very well.
Oh, okay. Well, in that case, if it's only one report, then I retract that comment.
Well, there is an inaccuracy on the bylaws report, but that's simply because instead of the report went in saying that we hadn't completed the approving the bylaws, and in fact, we were able to get it on this agenda for approval. So that report has changed to reflect that we will that it is on our agenda tonight, but of course I don't have the results. So if you want, I can pull that one also. Okay, so we'll pull the bylaws and the land use documents from the annual report.
Can we change the motions then?
Oh, can you read the motion again, Nance?
So Chair Dillman, Mike's original motion was to just pull the land use 2020 report from the package. And it sounds like we can either complete his motion and then do one for the bylaws, or you could ask for an amendment to his motion and see if we can include the two.
Okay, I suggest an amendment. So
I had a friendly amendment that we also remove the
bylaws,
report.
okay. And do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, Claudia, second. So now do we have to vote the whole motion now with the amendment? So are we in favor of the whole motion? Can you do a roll call, please, Nance?
Sure, I can. Jeanette Dillman,
Yes.
Claudia Sissenfeld, Vesta Copestakes,
Yes.
okay. Cynthia Strecker,
Yes.
Jordan Lebovitz,
Aye.
Pip Marquez de la Plata,
Yes.
Ron Redmond,
Aye.
and Mike Nichols.
Aye.
The vote is 800.
Okay. So we'll have to wait until after that meeting to approve the whole annual report, basically. So we don't need a motion. We don't need any action on this at this moment. Is that correct? Okay. So that brings us to informational items. Let's see where let me catch up here. So I will give a brief little report here. I do know we have a heavy schedule and I am trying to pay attention to time. So we are coming to the end of the initial Lower Russian River MAC Council member panel. Life in general has been a real roller coaster ride, and the MAC is still continuing to move forward. Before we close this critical mark in time, the chair would like to recognize each council member and alternate. First, a thank you to Supervisor Hopkins for assembling and supporting the MAC to provide better community participation and representation. Thank you, Vice Chair Claudia Sissenfu, and the first MAC Chair, Mike Nichols, for their essential support and counsel to the chair, and to each and every council member and alternate for their continued support, patience, flexibility, persistence, and downright true grit for getting the MAC to this point. Forestville Representative Vesta Copstick, I'd like to have you raise your hand so people can identify who you are. And Lucy Hardcastle, I don't know if she made it tonight. And alternate Lisa Nominson, who replaced Gary Harris. Hacienda Representative Claudia Sissenfu, and alternate Shalene Lopez. Rio Neto Representative Pip Marquez de la Plata, and John Uniacke, alternate. Guerneville Representatives Jordan Leibovich and Ron Redmond, who replaced Jennifer Wirtz, and alternate Nick Pereira. Monte Rio Vio Grande Representative Cynthia Strecker, and alternate Kira Wink. She is here, I believe. Cazadero Representative Mike Nichols, and alternate Terry Gostowski. Pocket Canyon alternate Bruce McDonald. Thank you for your time, consideration, and skills in doing the work of the MAC and your commitment to the community. And a special thank you to the public for your participation, patience, and true grit as well in bringing the community together and pointing the way forward. So please, Supervisor Hopkins, or excuse me, we're having Alicia next. I'm sorry. You ready, Alicia?
I'm ready. Thank
Okay.
you.
And Alicia is our septic ombudsman and is here to provide an update on the current legislation and everything that's going on with the septic regulations. So go for it.
Yeah. First, thanks for having me. Thanks for moving some things around in the agenda to allow me to present earlier. There's a conflicting Lower Russian River wastewater Community Advisory Group or CAG meeting that's tonight as well. So I'm going to be wrapping up here and then jumping onto that meeting. So thank you for this. I want to just briefly reintroduce myself because it's been about a year since I last presented to the MAC. As you noted, my name is Alicia O'Loughlin and I'm the Lower Russian River Ombudsperson. I'm also a Lower Russian River resident. I was hired by the county to assist locals in understanding the new septic policies, what's to be expected over the coming months and years, and to share and also help make available resources to homeowners to help meet the new septic regulations. And so I'm here tonight to update you on what's currently going on related to septic in our area. Firstly, the TMDL action plan. Many of you, I'm sure, are very familiar with the action plan for the Russian River Pathogen Total Maximum Daily Load, or TMDL, which is intended to address a pathogen impairment in the Russian River watershed and was adopted by the Regional Water Board in August of 2019. The TMDL action plan is currently anticipated to go before the State Water Resources Control Board for consideration of final approval in spring 2021. We have not been provided yet with an exact date or a month for that hearing, but appropriate public notice will be given. And for those who are participating tonight who are unfamiliar with the TMDL, under its requirements, property owners whose septic systems do not meet the state's minimum requirements will need to repair, upgrade, or replace their systems within the next 15 years or 20 years if they're participating in a community wastewater system solution. And there's, I'm sure, many questions around TMDL, and I'm going to be providing my contact information at the end of this presentation so that people can reach out to me directly for more information about that, and if they're personally impacted and what resources may be available to them or coming soon. So on that note, in an effort to provide assistance to impacted septic owners, the county is preparing to submit an application to the state's Clean Water State Revolving Fund, and that will be for the purpose of offering grants and below market rate loans to homeowners for the repairs, upgrades, and replacement of their systems as needed. And the specific details and framework for that program are still currently under development, but we expect much more information about that in early spring of 2021. And I'll be circling back around and reporting to you once I do have more information about that program. Also, draft revisions to the county's OTS manual or septic manual, version 8.0, are now nearing completion. That draft manual is targeted to be available to the public in January, with community outreach and a public comment period to follow, and a revised draft ready to go before the Board of Supervisors in approximately May. The Monterey Villa Grande Wastewater Treatment Project Plan of Study. The Sonoma Water Agency has received funding from the state for the development of the Monterey Villa Grande Plan of Study, which will analyze a variety of wastewater treatment alternatives for the Monterey Villa Grande communities. And ultimately, that project will consist of 3 phases. There'll be the feasibility study, assessment, and report phase, which is the one I'm referring to now, the plan of study. Then there will be a project design and environmental documentation phase, and that will be based upon the preferred project alternative or alternatives that come out of this first phase planning study. And then ultimately, construction of an infrastructure project. And community input will be sought during the plan of study development and ultimately on the project alternative or alternatives identified in that study. It will also serve as a pilot project to help inform efforts in other communities that are impacted by the new septic regulations. The request for qualifications to solicit proposals for the development of that study is expected to be released next month in January. And the community engagement strategy and timeline for the study will be identified once a consultant has been selected. So stay tuned for that. In addition to input from the community at large, the plan of study is also being informed by input from the Lower Russian River Wastewater CAG, for which I believe some members are present here tonight online, in addition to MAC member Cynthia Strucker, who participates in CAG meetings on a monthly basis as the MAC representative. So thanks to Cynthia for that. The CAG meets monthly to provide citizen input and feedback to government agencies working on wastewater management solutions for the Lower River area in the unsewered areas. The meetings are typically held on the 4th Thursday of each month and are open to the public. So please contact me if you'd like more information about participating in a future CAG meeting or providing input or reaching out to the CAG. And lastly, under a technical assistance from the state, a consulting firm was recently retained to prepare a study which is going to analyze the alternatives within the Monterey Villa Grande communities for existing or new local agencies to provide the organizational structure that could ultimately own, manage, and potentially operate the preferred solutions that come out of the Monterey Villa Grande Plan of Study. The preparation of that study is just beginning, and a timeline for completion is not yet available. I know that's a lot of information. There are quite a few things going on. If you have any questions about the TMDL, if you're personally impacted, or about anything else I discussed tonight, please feel free to reach out to me for assistance. And I am going to share my screen here with you in a second so that you can see my contact information. Okay. Sorry, I was going to. Here we go. There you go. Hopefully you're able to see that. There's my phone number and email address. I'm happy to meet with any of you or your neighbors, anyone who has questions about the TMDL or the new septic regulations. Please reach out to me and share this information with others. And I hope to report back to you guys in about 6 months on the advancement of all these different opportunities that are moving forward right now. Do we have time for any questions, Elise?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. Do we have any questions, Leo?
I don't see any hands raised up. Now there is one. Oh, let's see, up and down, up and down. All right, Peter Lescour, if you would like to speak, put your hand back up. If you don't, then keep it down. Okay, Peter, you should be allowed to talk. You just have to unmute yourself and you can go.
Alicia, you said that a firm has been hired to look at the formation for governance and management of the sewer district?
I don't know that a firm's been hired necessarily. We received a technical assistance grant from the state who engaged a consultant to prepare that study.
Okay, and that's strictly for the governance and the management then?
Yes.
Not the design?
Right, they're really just analyzing the organizational alternatives that could potentially form a management entity that would pursue any future grants and oversee construction of any of the project alternatives that come out of the Monterey Villa Ground infrastructure study. So they're looking at existing special districts as well as potential formation of new local districts.
Great, thanks for clarifying.
Sure. Oops,
That's the last hand raised I see.
Last?
Yep.
Okay. Okay.
Well, thank you again for your time, and reach out to me if you come up with any other questions.
Thank you very much for coming, and I'm glad you were able to make it to our meeting also.
So am I. Thank you.
Thank you, Alicia.
Okay. Now, Supervisor Hopkins, you have the floor.
Thank you so much, Chair Dillman. And I want to start out just by saying thank you so much to all of our retiring MAC members and also to our new MAC members. It has been quite a year, and I also want to add a special thanks to Chair Dillman for leading the MAC so deftly and skillfully through this very challenging year. It is not an easy thing to facilitate Brown Act meetings on Zoom, and you have just done an admirable job and brought, I think, what we always have experienced from you, which is very insightful, thoughtful comments, strong leadership, and you run a tight ship. And so I think that these meetings have been, for as challenging as the technology sometimes is, and as bad as our West County rural broadband also is, it has been remarkably smooth. And I really credit that to your chairship, Chairman Dillman. So thank you so much for all of your fantastic work leading through the MAC through yet another unprecedented year and through multiple disasters, right? It wasn't just the pandemic. It was also a fire that directly threatened many of our communities. And I want to say thank you to Chair Dillman and also to all of our MAC representatives, because I know that I was on the phone or texting with many of you and really appreciate everyone staying in touch. And a special shout out to Pip for being a fantastic leader in, Rio Nito, which is one of the last areas to get back in. And so just really appreciate everybody. Now a few quick updates from the county. Number one, wanted to update you on some important relevant items from Tuesday's board meeting. On Tuesday, the Board of Supervisors did vote in support of extending a vacation rental cap, a limited vacation rental cap in the Lower Russian River area. And actually the fantastic work of the MAC vacation rental ad hoc really did factor into this meeting. And I was actually citing the statistics from the data that you all garnered from the survey results. And it was able to honestly do a little bit of myth busting from some of the things that we were hearing, some questions from other board members about, well, is this really an issue? Do we really need to address it? And I think that that was able to demonstrate that, yes, it is. And it's not an all or nothing thing, because there's also this sense that either we're going to ban all the vacation rentals or they're going to be endless forever. And I think that there's a middle ground there. And so just so you know where we're currently at is we're essentially in a pause mode while we work on that longer term policy development, which I hope that the MAC will be intimately involved in. I'm hoping that Permit Sonoma will present to you and hear from you, and that maybe the vacation rental ad hoc can also sort of feed, some more information and work more closely and coordinate with Permit Sonoma staff. But as of now, we essentially have a list of communities that are under the cap, and those are communities which have a concentration of vacation rentals in excess of 10%. There are some communities that fell just under that cutoff. And for those communities, we're in sort of a wait and see mode, right? So, there's no limitations on vacation rentals right now, but staff will be monitoring those communities to see if they hit that 10% tipping point. And 10%, it's a sort of rudimentary rubric and cutoff at this point. Again, this is temporary for this cap. And then we'll be looking at what do we think is the appropriate concentration going forward. But that was kind of the starting point. It is something that other counties have used. Also on Tuesday, we did approve the first round of community investment funds, which means that there is money going out to good organizations, including good organizations near you. Some of those include Russian River Alliance, Mercadito Market, the Roseland Farmers Market, Bodega Bay Fishermen's Festival, Bodega Volunteer Fire Department, LC Allen High School Foundation, Food for Thought, Laguna de Santa Rosa Foundation, Lime Foundation, Los Cien, Occidental Community Choir, Redwood Arts Council, Santa Rosa Symphony Association, Sebastopol Area Senior Center, Sebastopol Chamber of Commerce, Apple Blossom Festival, Sonoma County Women in Law, and the Timber Cove Fire Protection District. And there is still more money available in that fund. So you can encourage other folks if they missed that round to apply. And we also will have more Tourism Impact Fund coming online next year, and possibly actually earlier next year than the new fiscal year. I also wanted to update you on how homelessness is looking in West County and sort of the conclusion of the summer navigation site. The summer shelter at the Park and Ride was, I believe, a success by a number of measures. First of all, businesses and neighbors did find the green screen and the management of the shelter site to reduce issues of vagrancy and trash on downtown streets. Also, now that the Shelter and Navigation Center has shifted over to the Vets building, there are now 24 people there, and the maximum is 27. 8 different people have been assisted in obtaining Section 8 vouchers, and they're being connected to housing, which is really good. And the numbers of homeless in Guerneville, although I know it's still a challenge in the lower Russian River, are creeping gradually downwards, not increasing as we had feared as a result of floods and fires and pandemic. Also want to mention that we have used $390,000 in funding with CARES money and in partnership with River to Coast Children's Services to help 121 families, for which is also 281 individuals, meet their rent and utility obligations. Our emergency rental assistance funds through the CARES Act funding. And those are people who would not otherwise have been able to make their rent payments due to COVID-19. And finally, I have some other good news that I think that folks in the lower Russian River will appreciate. I know that the provision of homeless services and the search for permanent supportive services in the lower Russian River has always been a longstanding challenge. But we do now have 2 other solutions in West County. On Tuesday, the Board of Supervisors approved the purchase and the acquisition of Sebastopol Inn. And that will be a sort of temporary location for COVID-19 vulnerable individuals for the duration of the pandemic. And it will then transition into permanent supportive housing sort of once we're out of the pandemic framework. In addition, the county is looking at expanding and extending the existing contract with Redwood, Alliance Redwoods, where we are currently getting folks sort of off of the streets. They're getting stabilized at Alliance Redwoods, and then they're moving on to permanent supportive housing from there. So this actually starts to create a system of care in West County, and West County unsheltered residents will be given priority. So this actually means that, when we are able to fund West County Community Services to conduct outreach, whether that's in the Sebastopol area or the lower Russian River area, that we actually have a place to put folks, which is really critical. And so we're really hoping that this will help alleviate some of the challenges of homelessness in the lower Russian River by getting folks stabilized over there in Camp Meeker and then moved into permanent supportive housing in Sebastopol at the Sebastopol Inn or elsewhere. Finally, I also want to acknowledge something that I wish that I could have engaged with the MAC Inn, but everything happened so fast and we were just literally working around the clock. But that is the West County Transient Occupancy Tax Measure, which will be on the ballot in March. The Board of Supervisors did, on a 4/5 vote, approve putting that on the ballot for voters' consideration, and that will increase in the area of the Bodega Bay Fire Protection District plus the West County High School District, that geographic area. Not saying that those are the only sole recipients of the potential funds, but in that geographically defined area would increase the transient occupancy tax by 4%. And then the revenues would be split between emergency medical and rescue services for our public fire agencies on one side, so 50% to that, and then 50% towards education. Education is prioritized for the maintenance of existing facilities and programs for the duration of the unification project, which is that West County high school school districts are looking at whether it would make sense for those districts to unify. After the unification period, it actually opens up the educational funding to really be birth through seniors. So, affordable childcare would qualify, career technical education, trade schools, reskilling, job training for adults. All of those things would be eligible for multi-year grant funding. And so I think that those are all of my updates. And sorry, it was a lot. I know it was kind of a data dump on you, but I am available for any questions through the chair.
Any hands up, Leo?
There's no hands up right now. Anyone at this time, please raise your hand.
Okay, Mike Nichols has his hand up. Go ahead.
Thank you, Supervisor Hopkins. I noticed today that D5 put out a survey for parking along the Russian River. Could you talk a little bit and address that comment on the parking survey?
Mike, that's going to be later in the agenda with the residential parking permit ad hoc.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
I have a question for you, Supervisor Hopkins. Is there a sunset clause for this measure?
It is until amended or repealed by voters. So I think that it would be, safe to say that it would be pretty easy to change the purpose if there was, support from the community at a future point in time. But it is just, so there is no specific time sunset.
Okay, thank you. Any others? Okay, well, Ron?
Yeah, I just can't pass up an opportunity to thank you, Linda, for getting the MAC started and sustaining it. And in particular, I just appreciate how you've addressed the homeless needs in the lower Russian River. And just bless you going forward. Thank you so much.
Wouldn't be a MAC without the MAC representative. So I'm just also grateful for you for dedicating your time, because I think this is a really important voice for the community. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. So next, as you know, this is our last regular meeting for this group, and Elise is going to talk about the election that's right around the corner. Can't hear you. Are you muted?
Elise?
Thank you. I was hitting too many buttons at once. I just wanted to bring everybody up to date on the selection process. We opened the selection process for the River Municipal Advisory Council and the Coast Municipal Advisory Council in October. We received a host of wonderful applicants. Many of them are running unopposed. So, and we do have a selection process happening in Monte Rio and Villa Grande. So I will go through each of the districts quickly. In Hacienda, starting in January of 2021, Alice Teeter will be your representative and Sherry Owens will be your alternate. You'll meet them all in January. In Forestville, Vesta Copestakes still has a year left in her term. Lisa Namenson, who's currently an alternate, will be your representative, and Lucy Hardcastle will be your alternate. In Rio Negro, Pip Marquez de la Plata has one more year left in his term, and Joe Falachek is going to be your alternate. In Guerneville, Nick Pereira, who is the alternate now, will be your representative. I'm excited to welcome as well Naomi Hofstetter, who will be a new representative. There is an alternate position still open in Guerneville, so if you're interested in being an alternate, please do send in an application. The form is available on the website under River Municipal Advisory Council. In Monte Rio and Villa Grande, a vote will determine whether Kyra Wink, who's the current alternate, or Cynthia Strecker, the current representative, will be the representative or the alternate for 2021-2022. We will have a candidate forum where you can hear from them in December 22nd. And the vote is open now. So the ballot is available on the Revere Municipal Advisory Council page. And I will also be at the Rio Cafe personally on December 23rd from 5 to 8 p.m. to collect any in-person ballots, masked and socially distanced. In Cazadero and Duncan's Mills, Mike Nichols continues to be the representative. We have an alternate position open in Cazadero. Again, please, if you're interested, fill in an application and get back to us. In Pocket Canyon, Chair Dillman has one more year as representative, and Milo Chapman is joining us as an alternate. Excited to have him joining us. So that's what your River Mac 2021 is going to look like. And there is all kinds of more information up on the Lower Russian River website if you want to dive into that. Thank you so very, very much to the representatives that have worked so hard over the last couple of years. As we know, having an election turnover peacefully is a great sign of the stability of an organization. And so it's great to go through this process and to see that in the Lower Russian River, our democracy is working. So it's great to be a part of that process.
Thank you. Any questions? We're not going, that's good. That's good, Elisa. All right. Thank you very much. So now we have Jane Riley here. And she's a comprehensive planning manager with Permit Sonoma. And she says that the county will soon release an EIR on the potential rezoning of up to 59 urban sites countywide, including sites in the Lower Russian River. And she will present information about the rezoning sites for the housing project, the approval process, the EIR process, and opportunities for public input. So welcome, Jane, and the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you, Jeanette. Thanks, everyone. Thanks for having us, and good evening. We're pretty excited about this project. I actually won't be doing all that presenting. I have some good people here with me. I'm joined by Nina Bellucci, who is our project manager. She'll be sharing her screen, I hope, and getting us through the presentation. Also, Darcy Kremen from Rincon Consulting, and she has been the main author of our environmental impact report. So because some of these sites are in the Lower Russian River, we want to bring the project to you, introduce you to it, and kind of walk through what comes next and what the opportunities are going to be for public input, how to get involved, and when the whole thing is going to finally be done. So yeah, I'm Jane. Nina's going to do most of the presentation, and Darcy will wrap up some of our environmental impact report part. Next page. Next slide, Nina.
Hey, Jane and Nina, I just wanted to let you know that you're displaying in the format where we can see the next slide. It's giving us the preview. If you want to hit the slideshow button to just show the slide that you're focused on, that would be ideal.
You might have to share a different screen.
I mean, it's not a huge deal. It's just for people watching on smaller screens. It'll be a little bit more challenging, but I mean, I can, but it's legible.
Are you good, Nina? Or you want to keep going with this, or you want to share a different screen?
If you select in the lower right,
no.
It's still showing that. That looks perfect.
Oh, that's a great big slide. Thank you. Next 2 slides, please. Great. So I'm going to start by talking about general plan housing elements and what adequate sites mean. A housing element is a part of the general plan. Every jurisdiction has to have one, every city and every county, and it contains the policies and programs for housing, a site inventory, which I'll spend most of the time talking about, and some other statutory requirements. Many pages in state law regulate what has to be in housing elements, and fair housing, affirmatively furthering fair housing, is one of the important and new things that we're looking for in a housing element now. Housing element is the only element that has to, of the general plan, that has to go to the state for certification. And if you don't get certification by the state, then you don't have a presumption of validity in case of a legal challenge. And you also can't get any funding from the state for housing. So that certification is super important. In order to get a certified housing element, you have to show that you have adequate sites that are zoned for housing to meet your share of the regional need, as determined by ABAG. That's the RHNA, the Regional Housing Need Allocation. So we're in the housing element period right now that ends at the end of 2022. And we're planning for the period of 2023 to 2031. So this seems like a long time in the future. 2031 is quite a ways out there, right? 10 years, but it's going to come fast. And when you're talking about making utilities available to sites in order to allow them to be ready and built for housing by the end of that period, we're talking about stuff that needs to be ready real soon. So again, the housing element has a whole bunch of other statutory requirements, including affirmatively furthering fair housing. And the affirmatively furthering fair housing comes into play with where we're designating sites for housing as well. We don't want to continue to perpetuate existing land use patterns, which put poor people in environmentally constrained or inferior sites. Next slide, please. So our RHNA, our regional housing need for the entire Bay Area right now is 187,000, almost 188,000 units. Our new RHNA for regional housing need that we get from Department of Housing and Community Development for the entire Bay Area is 441,000 units plus. So it's more than doubled. Almost half of that need is affordable. It's an increase of almost 135%. And it really reflects the housing crisis that we've seen across the state. It's consistent with increases around the rest of the state. Of that amount, 17,520 units have been assigned to Sonoma County and its cities. Next slide. And this slide shows you by income group what the assignments, and these are very draft RHNA allocations. New ones are coming out tomorrow, and we expect ours to go down a little bit, but not appreciably. So as you can see, we need over 1,400 very low income units and 820 low income units. And all of those units have to be built on sites where we have sewer. And as you know, we don't get to build in cities. We only get to build in the unincorporated county. So we come to communities like Guerneville to find sites that have sewer where we can build some of this housing. And this isn't about building it, it's about zoning adequate sites to get to the numbers that you see here on the screen. Next slide, please. So you saw that there was a 5,200 and something. We're going to end up with RHNA that's around, I think, 4,900. Our RHNA number has grown. And at the same time, the qualifications for what is an eligible housing site have shrunk. And so there's been a huge imbalance as to what we can use to put forth that we have adequate sites zoned for housing. Next slide. So the law says we must zone enough land to meet our share of the regional need, and the sites have to meet tough new criteria. There's a limitation on reusing sites. So if I've used them in the last two housing elements, I don't get to use them again unless I make specific findings. There are size and minimum density requirements for the lower income need, and there are no net loss laws, which means we have to zone in excess of sites to ensure that we have adequate sites available throughout the 8-year housing element period. So through 2031, we expect some of them will be developed. We still have to have adequate sites available. Next slide. So how many sites are we going to have to zone for housing? Well, a lot. So we're going to need over 2,000 for zoned for very low income and low income housing, because those have to be the sites that are at a higher density, so they have to have sewer. In our current inventory, we have the sites that we can reuse out of our current inventory. There are 5 of them, which allows about 200 units. So we have a really big job ahead of us. We do have 2 specific plans in development, one in the airport area and one in the Springs. The total number of sites that meet all the new requirements in those specific plans is 4. So we can make an argument that more of the sites should be chosen, and we're going to be doing some rezoning as a part of those specific plans, but that's not going to be our savior. This project that we're going to be looking at over the next few months, the rezoning sites for housing projects, would rezone up to 59 sites with the potential for up to 3,000 housing units. So that would be enough to meet our regional housing need if we were going to rezone all of those sites. We don't know yet if we're going to recommend rezoning all of those sites. The environmental impact report is looking at all of the sites, and we'll make some recommendations based on what that says. Next slide, please. Nina, is this where you take over?
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. Yes. Hi. Oh, there's an echo. Nope. Okay. I think I'm good. All right. So this project, as Jane said, has the potential to identify 59 sites that we can add to our housing inventory. We began this process a couple of years ago when we asked the public to nominate sites around the county that they identified as vacant or underutilized. Staff whittled that over 100 sites that we had nominated down to these 59 sites based on this criteria that you see here. Sites had to be in an urban service area, could not be in a community separator. If they were located near an incorporated city, they couldn't be outside of the city's urban growth boundary. And then there are additional criteria in the general plan and the zoning ordinance that have to do with proximity to transit, jobs, services, schools. So these 59 sites also include some sites that were in our current inventory that we weren't able to reuse without rezoning. And the potential zoning districts are the R2 district, which is the medium density residential district, which allows for a range of housing types, including multifamily, but also single family and cottage housing. And the workforce housing combining zone, which is a new combining zone that allows housing on commercial and industrial land, but does not change the underlying zoning or the underlying land use options for those parcels. As I think we mentioned, an EIR was required for this project, and the analysis that is being done for that EIR will inform our recommendations as to which sites get rezoned. The EIR identifies potential impacts of the project on the environment in 20 environmental resource topic areas, including transportation, greenhouse gas emissions, cultural resources, transportation, or biological resources. And this is a little bit different from a project EIR. This is a program EIR. And this EIR studies, instead of the specific impacts from a specific project, it analyzes the effects of a series of actions that are related. So this is looking at rezoning on each of these sites, but not on the specific development proposed, just on an assumption of development and a kind of maximum build out potential for each one. So we're still preparing the draft EIR, and it's likely to be published in January, and then will be open for public review. And I'll talk about all the ways that the public can review and comment on that in just a second. These two maps show the sites that are in the areas within the Lower Russian River max purview. You may not be able to see them all that well, so we can look at a different map up close later during question and answer. But in Forestville, there are 6 sites Forestville 1 and 4 are near Forestville Academy. Forestville 4 is accessed from Van Keppel Road. Forestville 1 is, I think, accessed from Covey Road. Forestville 2 is a large parcel between Nolan and Mirabelle Road. And then 3, 4, and 5 are a cluster of sites off of Highway 116. And then in Guerneville, we have 4 sites. Guerneville 1 is owned by the Sweetwater Springs Water District and accessed from Morningside Drive. And 2, 3, and 4 are all accessed off of Laughlin Road. They're near each other, but not contiguous. And then this is the schedule for the kind of public review period for this project. So sorry, I didn't update this date. We had hoped to publish by the end of the year, but we're not going to. So, well, I should have changed that to January. But until then, we are having public meetings like this one to explain the project and get early input from community members. We published the draft EIR probably in January, and that starts a 60-day public review period. During that time, we'll also present the draft EIR to the Planning Commission. And once all comments the comment period is over, we collect comments, we prepare the final EIR, and then we'll go to the Planning Commission and the Board of Supervisors to have them review the project. They may certify the final EIR and make a decision on which parcels are to be rezoned. And that we hope to happen in the spring of next year. Okay, so taking a step back to the housing element timeline again, we are currently kind of in the scoping stage of the housing element. We'll begin preparing the actual draft housing element in next year and the beginning of 2022. And the housing element has to be adopted and certified by the end of 2022. So as Jane said, it's super important that we have a certified housing element and we meet that deadline. If we don't, we can't get state funding for housing and other community benefits. And just so you all know what all is on our plate that we'll be coming to you again to talk about is the public safety element is also due at the end of 2022, and a new requirement that we adopt policies relating to environmental justice. So all of that has to be done by the end of the year after next in order for us to be in compliance. So there are opportunities for participation both in the EIR process and in the rezoning process. As I mentioned, there's a 60-day comment period that starts when we publish the draft EIR, and members of the public can submit comments by email. We have an interactive map that was open at the beginning of this process also that'll be open again for submitting comments once that draft is published. And then we'll be presenting to the Planning Commission where we'll be taking public comments orally also. For the rezoning project, we have, I have a wrong date for this very meeting. So we're presenting to community groups this month and next. And the next one will be the Mark West Community or Citizens Advisory Committee in January, Geyserville Planning Committee. And then, as I mentioned, the Planning Commission and the Board of Supervisors will both review the project and may take action on both the certification of the EIR and the rezonings. So we are happy to answer questions about the project. And as Jane mentioned, our CEQA consultant, Darcy Kremen from Rincon Consultants is here and can answer questions about the CEQA process. And Jane and I are happy to answer questions about the sites and about the larger rezoning process. And I'll take this presentation down now. If I can remember how.
Nina, I went ahead and pulled it down.
Oh, thank you.
Chair Dillman,
Yes.
could I just ask the presenter, I think it'd be important to put the maps maybe in the minutes. Could you make sure that you send Elise a copy of this presentation and I'll just get it from her? Thank you.
Are you ready to present, Darcy?
I actually don't have a presentation. Nina spoke all about the CEQA EIR process, but I am happy to answer any questions you have. And she may have mentioned this, but there is an interactive map on the county's website. So you can go and look at specific sites today. And when the EIR is published, you'll be able to comment on specific sites. So you can drill down to the site that you're interested in particular, and then you can give us a comment through the website, which is nice.
Thank you. So do we have any, Claudia?
The presentation. If you have the information available now, do you mind giving sort of like a summary of what some of those sites are zoned as currently, and if there were any sort of like challenges to getting those rezoned?
Yeah, I can talk. They aren't really easily grouped, but most of them are zoned rural residential. I believe in Forestville, the sites that are on Highway 116 are zoned. So Forestville 5. I can also share the map if people think it would be useful to see them up close. Okay. Let's go on another screen sharing expedition here.
Yeah, Nina, I have all the current zoning designations, but it's all over the map. So
yeah,
if you have a specific site, that would be helpful.
So
but
we
like
can,
yeah, go ahead.
We could just kind of fly through these if that works for everyone. So Forestville 1 is zoned MP. That's MP is an industrial district. Forestville 2. I can't really say what the challenges will be yet, because that analysis isn't really complete until the EIR, the draft EIR is complete. This is a RR site. This is the one over on Maribel and Nolan. And this is an R1 site.
Nina, can you give a little bit more detail about what R1 and RR mean, please?
Oh, sure. Yeah. So RR is the rural residential district, which is a low density residential district. R1 is a primarily single family residential district, but it's the urban low density district. So that means that those sites, there are some urban RR sites, but R1 typically means that a site is in an urban service area with services. So Forestville 4 over by the Forestville Academy is also RR. Sorry,
what would these sites be zoned for, Nina?
Jane? These sites would, I think everything we've seen so far is proposed to be rezoned to R2, which is the medium density residential district with a density of 10 units per acre.
Okay, so the one we're looking at right now has a density of 2 units an acre. That's the most you could build there. So we would propose through this project to rezone that to 10 units an acre. And we have a 100% density bonus program by right, which means no discretionary entitlements necessary, that if you provide 40% of your units as affordable, you get 100% density bonus. So that means that an affordable project could come into the site at 20 units per acre, which is a 2 stories, sometimes even up to 3-story development. So that's pretty significant density. But as Nina mentioned, that R2 designation allows a variety of different housing types. And one of the things that it would allow is like cottage housing developments, tiny homes, clusters, that sort of development. So a lot of different innovative housing types. It doesn't have to be high density residential with that designation, with the R210 designation. So it can go up to 20. The other, and they're analyzed at 20 units per acre. The other ones, the other zoning that we're looking at, and I think Forestville 4 or 4, one of these is for the workforce housing.
This one, yeah, this one.
The one that you're on, yeah.
Yeah.
So if it's currently zoned commercial or industrial, we would propose the workforce housing overlay, which would allow any of the base units or base uses that are already allowed in the district that it's in, and or housing of 16 to 24 units per acre. So, or both. You could do whatever the underlying use is, industrial plus build your workforce housing on site. So that's a super flexible zoning district. And we're excited about that one. Again, it's 16 to 24 units per acre. And so in the EIR, we analyzed them all at the maximum of 24 units per acre. So we've really looked at the worst case scenario if you're looking at environmental impacts, kind of best case scenario for those of us who want to build a lot of affordable housing.
Yeah, I'm just continuing our tour here in Guerneville. So this Guerneville site, this is Guerneville 1 off of Morningside Drive is an R1 site, and there are 3 more. Nope, wrong community altogether. So Guerneville 2 off of Laughlin Road is an RR site. I believe this is a R1 site at the end of Cutton Drive. And then I have one more over here.
Yeah, so this, Nina is using the online mapping tool. So this is what you would see when you go onto that link that was shared. This is exactly what you'll see when you go onto the online mapping tool.
And you'll be able to make a comment with this little flag, and you can vote, kind of vote sites up here too. And that'll be available when the draft is published. So this last site is zoned RR also. And I'll stop sharing so everybody can see themselves.
I took the sharing down. You're ready.
Vesta.
The sites in Forestville, I represent Forestville for the MAC. The sites in Forestville, one of them, the ones by Packing House Road, I believe those are the ones that were affordable housing across from the elementary school, that some aspect of that should be the skate park that the town is hoping to put in. Am I correct about that? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, one of those is proposed, the proposed skate park site, and we're thinking about doing the workforce housing on that, which would allow for 2 uses.
Okay, that'd be cool. And we love that. The other one that looked like it was between Cars Drive-In and the elementary school, is that the power supply plant land? The land that is a Superfund site? I think it's Forestville 1. Am I correct about that? It's contaminated?
I don't know. I mean, that certainly that is something that's going to be analyzed in the EIR and already has been. I don't.
Do you have any
remember.
contaminated sites, Darcy?
We didn't screen sites out for that.
Yeah,
but,
I'm gonna look right now.
Yeah, because it should be the power plant, and it looks to me like it's the power supply plant. They've been doing a lot of testing of the wells and the water there, because the wells, the water, and the PCBs that are in the land have been impacting classrooms in the elementary school. They haven't actually been able to have students in classrooms that are up against that property because of it. So that is in fact a Superfund site. If I'm correct, that is the one. So it just looked like the map that is the one. That's the Superfund site with the power supply company. And I'm forgetting the name of the power supply company at the moment, but it's in between Cars Drive-In and the elementary school, right on 116.
So I need to verify for sure, but I think our analysis shows that that is not a listed site, but it's near a listed site. So I'll double check. This is, you're talking about Forestville one.
Correct, yes.
Yeah, all the Forestville sites are, well, not, yeah, they're all near some nice contaminated sites, but I don't think they're on that they actually are contaminated.
Yeah,
Listed.
it just looks like that is the place. So that's why I'd like to get that one cleared up. And I want to, because I'm now the Forestville columnist, I want to be able to announce that this is coming for the January edition of the Sonoma County Gazette. And I would like to be able to get all the information that I can tell our people that it's coming, and they can get it. I believe they could get the links on the Lower River Mac, but also the links that you presented here. I want to tell people that it's time to start paying attention to this.
Thank you, Vesta. We really appreciate that.
Yeah, it's good stuff. Yeah,
it is.
Yeah.
Nick,
Yeah, I just was concerned with the Guerneville 1 site, and the access roads to that site are really bad to begin with. So at what point does that sort of comment, input get to you guys? Because it's a half of a lane road up there as it is, and we do have fire trucks.
Yeah, so some sites won't be able to meet some of other criteria for development that's not analyzed in the EIR, and we absolutely want that input, probably during the public comment period, and beyond, as we're presenting the actual rezoning project to the decision makers. So it's not something that would necessarily come up in the EIR as a reason to screen a site out, but it will come up in our non-CEQA analysis.
So just let me, I know this is confusing. If I could clarify, I've probably said it 3 different times. None of them have made the right sense. But the EIR analyzes all of the sites, but that doesn't mean that we're going to propose all of them for rezone. That EIR is going to help us to weed out the sites that we would not propose for rezone. So we don't think we're going to be recommending all of these sites for rezone. So it's super important that you guys do give us that input, especially when the draft is out. It's that 60-day period, and you go on that interactive map and you give us input specific to those sites, because that really tells us which sites we should and shouldn't be recommending to be rezoned. Because it's kind of a futile exercise if I have if the access to a site is only 10 feet wide and I need 20 to meet fire standards when I develop a site, it's futile to rezone the site because it could never be developed for that. It's kind of disingenuous. So it's your input on the EIR that helps us determine, when we get to the actual proposed rezoning, helps us determine which sites we're going to recommend for that rezoning. The EIR is going to look at all of them. Does that make sense?
any other questions?
Um,
Jordan?
There we go. Just had to unmute. Assuming that some sites meet the requirements, criteria, and are rezoned, what are the steps after that to entice builders to come build? And what are the target rents to meet affordable housing?
Great question. So I didn't really go into this before, but the idea is that by rezoning these sites, and the idea for us, but also what HCD in looking at our housing element wants to see is that these sites are zoned for housing by right. So means that a developer would only need design review committee approval to build. So not exactly an incentive, but it is. It means that the land use approval is done. The sites are zoned for housing. So the rezoning doesn't require any that it be affordable housing beyond our inclusionary requirements. As Jane mentioned, we have a 100% density bonus program that allows these potentially R2 10 units an acre density sites to build up to 20 units per acre with the density bonus. And that density bonus requires 40% of the units to be designated as lower income, which all of a sudden my mind is blanking, but I believe it's below 60% of area median income. Jane, why is?
Yes, 60% of area median income.
Thank you.
I didn't bring the figures, but we can send those along.
Yeah, that'd be.
Yes, Vesta will want those.
Yes, yes, definitely. Thank
Okay.
you.
Great, thank you.
Is there a,
Vesta, excuse me, Vesta.
Yeah.
I let other people speak. You've spoken once.
Okay.
Did I see another hand? Cynthia?
Just a quick one. When you are using area median, are you using a county-wide median or a median that is more specific to the Russian River?
No, it's countywide. In fact, is it even beyond the county? But it is the same income limits and therefore rent limits for the entire county.
Okay.
Do you have any public comments, Leo?
Yes, there are 2 hands raised, and then also in the chat, Lisa Namenson was asking a clarifying question. I may have missed this piece, but how are the parcels identified? Can Permit Sonoma explain the sites?
How they were identified? How?
I think the sites in your analysis, like are they county sites or some combination of county sites and something else?
They're all in the unincorporated county. They are. I'm not sure if we're talking about how the list got to these 59 sites, or like
I think that I'm guessing that's what the question is asking.
Okay, yeah, so they were, it was a combination of nominations from the public and sites that are in our existing inventory that we needed to rezone in order to use them in the next inventory. I think those are the only 2 sources, but so members of the public maybe nominated a site on their street that they thought was underutilized, or some developers nominated sites that they had identified as having a good location, but not the right zoning. Yeah, and there's a couple of county-owned sites or public entity-owned sites that that have, residential characteristics or good residential location that were added.
When we put the word out that we were looking at sites to potentially rezone for housing, we got almost 2,000 nominations for sites. People were really interested in it. And so most of the sites came from the public. We didn't accept them and even start looking at them unless they met our criteria of being in an urban service area and being in unincorporated county. People nominated sites that were in cities and stuff. It was great. But it told us that people were really interested. They drive around and think, that's a good site for affordable housing. Why don't we have affordable housing there? So that was a really good part of the process. Unfortunately, most of those sites won't be able to move into the rezoning project, but we did find 59 to move forward with.
Okay, So let's go to Deborah, who's been waiting patiently quite a long time. Deborah, I'm trying to unmute you. You should be able to speak. You're still appearing as muted.
Should I be able to see her, Leo? Let's see.
Oh. Deborah, you're still showing the mute symbol. If you're on a phone, it's *6, but it doesn't look like that's the case. Deborah, I'm gonna leave you on the screen and I'm gonna go to John Uniac. If you can try to see if you can unmute your Zoom, then you'll be able to go next, or if you need to, you could call in and let us know that.
Guerneville sites off of
Don,
Armstrong.
I'm sorry, can you start over? I was clicking through. Go ahead and start again. Thanks, John.
John Uniac. On the sites between Laughlin and Watson Road there off of Armstrong. They're on the California water system, and I don't think that water system meets the requirements for modern standards. Another thing is that the ground table there, the water table, is quite low. And if you go back in your records, when Ernie Carpenter was supervisor, there was a plan out there for, I think, maybe up to 20 acres of a a high density housing project that was shot down because of the water table. So I would check on those previous plans, and also I would check on the water table and the water quality of California water, which would be giving you the water there. Thank you.
Thanks, John. Deborah, you're still showing as muted. If you want to try calling in, I think that's the only solution I can think of for you right now.
Okay. Okay. I think we need to move on here. So I'm going to suggest that we move on, and then maybe we can pick up Deborah later somehow.
That seems reasonable.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Judy and Darcy and Nina, and I am sure we'll see you again. This is very informative, and I can see that we have a lot of homework to do.
Yes.
And believe me, we'll be there.
Thank you so much. Investor will get you what you need.
Thank you very much. Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, so now we're going to move on to the roads report and take it over, Pip. Ready to go, Pip?
Unmute.
Okay.
Hold on.
I can hear you.
Okay. So I just wanted to point out for everyone that in the packet, there's a list of completed and ongoing road work for 2020 that you can actually read through and figure out which roads have had attention this year, which roads got money, and there's been quite a bit of money that has been spent on roads in the Lower Russian River. The list is the entire 5th district, but you can look and see which roads that are close to you or within the Lower Russian River. I do have to say this past year, the Department of Transportation and Public Works were able to complete a lot of projects, even though they were heavily impacted during the fires. And they had to respond during the fire period and move projects around to make that happen. So thank you for continuing the work in the 5th district and the Lower Russian River, even though that was going on. So I'll also want to thank Elise and Johannes for pulling this list together. I believe this is the first publicly published list that we can all like easily access to look at the work that's actually being done. And it's in your packet, and I can pull it on the screen if you want, but it's like a list of 100 different projects.
It's worthy of taking the time to peruse yourself.
Yeah, and thank you, Elise and Johannes, for pulling this together in a rather short period of time.
So Elise, I know we have some more roads information. So are you presenting that?
I spoke with Johannes today. I know that people are very eager to hear about Moscow Road. Moscow Road has proved to be kind of a big challenge because the difficulty of the site and the length of the unstable ground. So Transportation and Public Works did a study, and they have determined that what they need to do is not simply rebuild what was there, but create an entirely new bridge. And so they have gotten the design and preparation for that, the funds for the design on that approved. I think it was even in the last supervisors meeting. I'm right on that, Supervisor Hopkins. And so they're contracting a consultant for that, and that is moving forward to build a whole new bridge on Moscow Road, which will make it a really strong permanent site. That's the situation with that, even though it's been a long haul and it will continue to be a challenge for a while, because they're really doing the work to do it right and to do it with FEMA funds, which is also always a challenge. We have Brandon and Glenn here from TPW to talk about trash issues, but since we have them, do you guys have anything to add to the roads? Or is I guess not.
No, nothing to add on the roads. We actually went over those projects today, and we'll be starting kickoff meetings with the consultants probably within a week or so.
Great. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. So that's what we have for roads today.
Okay, I would like to interject here. I know that Susan Joyce, who's in the audience, wanted to speak earlier, I'm sure, about the Neely Road issue. It is related to the THP, but I would like to, in this roads conversation, give her the opportunity to speak.
Thank you. It's a good idea.
Should I go ahead and do that at this time, Chair Dillman?
Yes.
Yeah. Susan, you should be able to unmute at this time.
There I am. Okay, hi. First, I just want to say, Elise, thank you for your report. I wasn't sure if that tour had happened yet. As far as I know, and the neighborhood group that I'm in, Guerneville Forest Coalition, they have not removed all of the THP places, especially the one I wrote about, which is actually a small clear cut right on Neely Road at that G6 point. But after listening to you, I'm going to call CAL FIRE tomorrow and see if they've changed their original map or not, because everything on the map shows at that point and another point on Neely Road are still planned for timber harvesting. But some of the place along there has been removed. I was more concerned with the water coming down off the hill in a greater amount once the trees are gone, that would increase the already tremendous runoff we have on Neely, which increases the road erosion and the landslide. So after hearing your report, I will check in with them, but I don't believe they've changed their plan, especially on that one spot, which was they call it a group cut, but it's a small clear cut is really what it is. They do these little patches of clear cutting, and it's not really called clear cutting, but that's basically what they do. And I'm concerned about this one spot because of it's already got a waterway, and the road looks like it's already partially eroded there and sinking. And you know, I'm kind of really aware of Neely Road because I've lived there for almost 40 years, and every winter we see these waterfalls and landslides and road erosion and road repairs and even road collapses a couple times where we had half the road gone for months and we had to go one lane, that kind of thing. So it's a very serious problem. So
I remember that one lane. That was crazy.
yeah. So any kind of clear cut, I mean, any kind of timber harvesting up there is really kind of nuts, but what can you do? It is private property and they do have a right to cut, I guess. But anyway, I'm wondering also if the 3 other timber harvests earlier on that land is one of the reasons we have so much runoff now. I don't know. I can't swear to it, but it comes from way up there and then comes all the way down the hill. So
The prior timber harvests were in different sections. So what they do is every 7 years, they cut a different section.
Okay.
My point in mentioning that was that there hasn't been a big visual impact, which is something people have been worried about in those prior cuts. So you can see the lack of impact from those prior 2 parcels that they've done. But yeah, they assured me that they weren't going to be cutting above Neely, but I will double check as well. Thank you so much for your vigilance on this.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thanks.
Do we have any other board comments or public questions regarding roads? Vesta? And then Mike. Can't hear you.
I appreciate the list. The list is really useful and it really helps define the questions that we had the last time the MAC meeting had TPW in Monterey when people were talking post-flood. So this has been an excellent list and I think it's going to be really useful for a lot of people to go and simply look at their project, the one that they were concerned about, and see what the status is. So thank you, Pip, and thank you, TPW, for putting together such a comprehensive list, and of course, Elise.
You're welcome.
Mike?
Just one brief comment on that timber harvest conversation we just had with Susan. Maybe this would be an opportunity for TPW to go out to the site, visit the area, and then they can make a determination as well as to whether or not the road is being impacted.
Yes, TPW is working on the roads in collaboration with County Council and Redwood Empire, not only looking at where they're harvesting, but also where the trucks will be driving. So, you know, they're going to be driving out a little bit on Neely Road, mostly on Mays Canyon. They'll also be going on 116. And what will be the impact of that and what mitigation will be needed for that. So Johannes is all over that.
Very good, thank you. I was more concerned about the water and erosion issues that Susan was just referring to that they might want to take a look at.
Yes.
Ron,
I would just add, I know that they're specifically looking at the culvert issue at Neely, so that's been a topic of ongoing back and forth as well.
Thank you both.
We'll keep on it.
Did you have a comment you wanted to make, Ron? Okay, any public questions or comments?
There's one hand raised. It's David Reichard. David, you should be allowed to speak at this time.
Hi, thank you. This is David. I'm Susan's partner, and I've been in another meeting, but I've heard most of what's going on. And a couple comments is what we call culvert number 1 on the THP is totally non-functional, and the latest word is the county and the property owner can't come to an agreement, so they're not going to do anything, which is horrible. We need it fixed. And the other one is there's a culvert right next to our house that is also non-functional. All the water flows under the culvert, which slowly is washing out the road and our property. And what I'd like to see happen is for somebody in Public Works to contact me and take them on a tour, show all these damaged culverts. Because I know they're looking at it, but since they don't live here every day, they may not know all the problems. And I'm not sure how to go about that. Thank you.
I'm happy to follow through with Johannes on that and to get that looked at. My email is, well, just send it to district5@sonoma-county.org and we'll follow through on that for you.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. And one of the things that helps is whenever you report something on a road, if you can, to take a picture, that makes a big difference. So thanks very much.
Okay, any other comments?
I'll just
Susan
follow up
Haas-
on something that Elise just said. Also use the SOCO reported at, because you do get a response, I think, quicker sometimes if you report it that way, because then it gets logged right away and they can see it.
Okay.
Jeanette, Susan has her hand raised again. I don't know if you're able to take her comment again.
Sure, yeah.
Oh, she just lowered it, so maybe it was left over. Go ahead and proceed. That's it for public hands.
I think we've come to the end of the road for comments here on this subject. So thank you, Pip, very much for working on this, and Elise and Susan and her partner. Okay, so now we get to the regular. And did I do something there? Anyway.
No, that's me.
With the strategic plan idea is, it's a great idea, but I have to say it's very complex. There's a whole lot of parts to it. And we just didn't really feel like we have the information we need to provide a solid groundwork for going forward. So Elise is going to give us a little summary of what's going on with that. So can you?
Well, given that we're close to the end and we have a lot to talk about around trash and vegetation, I'll just give you a quick update, which is that we've had numerous requests recently around strategic planning. What strategic planning is the county doing? How can we get strategic planning around local issues such as visitor impact, trash, septic, enforcement, parking, those sorts of things. We're taking up that challenge, and we're looking at some funding options and bringing in possibly an outside consultant to help us look at these issues, which have a lot of complexity to them. So we'll have more to talk about at the next meeting, and we'll just move on now since this is a big topic and we're just opening it at this point. So can we move forward to trash programs?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Is someone going to speak to this?
Yes, Brandon and Glenn are here to speak about trash. Sorry.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
We are here.
Hey.
So thanks. So I know, hey, Brandon, or I haven't, there's Brandon.
We don't really have a presentation ready, but you could ask your questions if you'd like.
Right. Yeah, we weren't really given a list of topics today regarding, we're certainly here to talk about, the franchise agreement, illegal dumping, some of the programs that are out there, but
let me frame you a little bit, guys.
Yeah.
I spoke with Johannes and he said he gave me this list of things you were going to cover. So I thought that we had that.
Well, he didn't give them to us. So,
so there we are. As you know, we brought up the question of trash at the last meeting, and we're going to be talking about this in a sequence of meetings because it's a big topic. We have across a number of agencies in the county of Sonoma, we're looking at various ways to educate and engage visitors, educate and engage residents.
Right.
And also we really want to turn the whole culture around from illegal dumping and not having trash service and dumping in the river and on the roads
Right.
to being responsible for people, whether they're visitors or homeless or whatever, to, you know, creating solutions so that we can diminish the problem, because simply saying somebody's got to pick it up is not enough given the level of irresponsibility from so many people along the way. So we're working from multiple angles on this, and I know that one of the areas of confusion is what is our relationship with Recology? What's our relationship with Republic? And, you know, who's responsible for what? So if you could frame that a little bit for us so we could be educated on how our county trash contracts work, that would be super helpful.
Right. So, you know, with Recology through our franchise agreement, we have numerous services that are provided, and we recently reworked that franchise agreement to increase sweeping routes throughout the county. And, you know, part of their program has always been the illegal dumping when it's in the county right of way, that they will pick up and address that. You know, as far as the overall issue with illegal dumping, you know, I don't know. I mean, there's education and outreach through Recology, and there's moves now with SB 1383 to get rid of like single-use plastics and other type, you know, organic waste, and providing new services for recycling. But as far as, you know, illegal dumping, it's always going to be an issue to a certain respect. Perfect example right now is treated wood waste. You know, the governor vetoed a recent allowance that basically allowed it to not be treated as hazardous waste, so you could dispose of it relatively easily. And that is disappearing as of January 1st, which means that the price to get rid of treated wood waste is going to go up like sixfold. And a lot of people, they're going to look at that and say, it's going to cost me all this money to throw it away. And, you know, the greatest fear is it's going to end up on the side of the road somewhere. And it's an ongoing effort. I mean, that's, you know, Brandon, any additional comments on?
Not really. For outreach for illegal dumping, I don't think TPW, we don't really do that, do we? Don't have a lot of that. I've seen some signs of don't dump here in the Streets to Creek program, but I think.
Right, but we do have it through Recology. We do have a program where they will pick up, you know, if we get notified and it's in the right of way, they will address that when it occurs.
And the way to do that is to go to SoCo Report It and report trash dumps on the side of the road.
Yeah, it's the best way.
Yeah, and the other thing is we do have community cleanups. There is funding set aside for that Brandon administers when there are programs where people, you know, whether it's Adopt a Road or it's a community cleanup in one of the jurisdictions or in the rural county, those programs exist also. And I think was like $23,000 a year for disposal fees, Brandon, that gets allocated each year.
So if a local area like Friends of Villa Grande or Friends of Rio Neto wanted to put together a community cleanup, what would they do to receive support from the county?
Brandon? Yeah.
Somehow get a hold of me, basically. Either directly or through the Board of Supervisors office. Have some forms to fill out. Let's see. Sorry, I'm on a blank there on that. Typically, they've been referred to through the Board of Supervisors for various community cleanup efforts.
Right. So, I mean, once that referral is made, you know, that request goes into our department and it gets approved, and then they can be provided that service and they don't have to pay for the disposal.
So you guys would provide, say, a dumpster, is that what you mean? Or if people put things into bags, then you'll have Recology come by and pick them up?
Not necessarily. We will waive the fees for the dumping fees. We have a certain amount of money set aside each year to be applied to that. As far as getting the trash to the landfill, Recology actually does donate that service quite often. That or people have been hauling it in themselves.
I see. Thank you. Those are my questions. Does anyone else on the council, or I see Pip's hand up?
Pip?
He answered my question when he made the last comment, so I'm good.
Okay.
Claudia?
I had a couple questions. Let me pull them up. So I know where I live, maybe every couple of months, there's always like a midnight dump of mattresses along the roadway. But I know you particularly mentioned the county will deal with it if it's in the right of way. Who do we call if it's not in right of way, but it's there, it's been illegally dumped, maybe it's sitting in like a ravine, so the water is getting rushed into the river, taking all that trash with it. Is there anybody who is responsible for getting that off the road?
Well, if it's in the road, we could have Recology pick it up through our contract with them. Not in the road, though, that would probably be a sheriff issue.
Yeah, but if it suddenly moved into the road right of way and we had no idea how it got there, it would go to Recology. They would take care of it. And the thing is, in the last couple of years, the Mattress Recycling Council, they have a program now where it used to be it was very expensive to get rid of the mattresses, and now it isn't. You can drop Recology, I believe. Brandon, do you know if Recology has that up at their facility now? I know Fred said he was going to get that going where you can bring the mattresses there and they recycle them and there wouldn't be a charge associated with those.
I haven't heard if it's actually up and running yet. As far as I know, it's still just the Gurnville transfer station. It's the only site for that.
Right. But I know we've been in talks with Republic and they've been looking to expand that to Central and a few of the other facilities because it is reimbursed through the state program now. It's just a matter of getting it rolled out.
So that currently exists, like people could take their mattresses
To Gurnville Transfer Station, you can do that.
That's good to know. I also wanted to ask about like the idea of having maybe free like dumping days at a landfill, like every quarter, like people can bring, all of these things that they dump illegally because they don't have the funds or don't want to pay to.
Right. Well, the JPA has like a household hazardous waste cleanup events that they advertise on their Zero Waste Sonoma. So I think it might be Courtney over there who organizes it, but I go to their webpage and take a look. Typically, a couple of times a year, they will offer that in different jurisdictions, and you can show up with your old paints and solvents or other things and get rid of those.
If I may, I add one more. Is that okay? Or do you want me to, I can wait till the end?
Go ahead.
You had said that if for like a neighborhood cleanup, getting a bin, the county would reimburse for taking that bin to the landfill. Does that also count for like debris, like yard debris? So not just trash removal, but for vegetation management, if a community wanted to get rid of fire safety purposes.
Yes, it does work for brush, yard waste. Reimburse is the wrong word though. The fee can get waived.
Right, but there's also a bulk item program that a lot of people don't take advantage of through Recology. If you have service, and I think it's twice a year now.
No, 4 times still.
Is it 4? Is it 4? Okay, we didn't change that. All right. So 4 times a year, you can have a bulk pickup, and Recology will come out and pick up bulk items. And they might resist a little bit to brush, but it's still a bulk item you can't get in your regular trash can in some of those areas. So
Okay. So best of.
It sounds like we would have two different ways of doing this. One is we could organize a cleanup, fill out your forms, get a dumpster, and have you pick up what a community cleanup does. And then, of course, there's the scheduled ones. Zero Waste has not been scheduling many of their special pickups because of COVID. They won't resume again for a while because I've tried to communicate with them about that one. But it sounds like that you could organize a cleanup if say a community filled out the forms and said, this is when we're going to do it, and this is where we're going to put our stuff. But if that was not possible, if an individual was out there cleaning up, could it be possible to either call you and say, we have left a stack of things for you to pick up on the side of the road? Or would we simply clean up, leave a stack, call SoCo, report it, and they would come clean up the stack on the side of the road?
Yeah, the later.
The latter?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so because there's a lot of people who just want to pick up trash. They take walks, they pick up trash, but they can't take it to the dump, or they don't have room in their bins. So they could literally leave a stack out and just call SoCo, report it, and SoCo report it would go pick it up then.
but in a sense, that's illegal dumping to put on the right of way. I mean, if you found a mattress and it suddenly showed up on the side of the road, yes, the county would deal with it as illegal dumping and it would get taken care of. But we really don't want to encourage, community cleanups where all of a sudden we're just putting stuff along the side of the roads and we're getting calls all the time. It's not the ideal way of taking care of it. The ideal way would be to get a community cleanup together, call up Brandon, get the disposal, see if you can get Recology to take care of the hauling for you, which they have. I mean, they've actually been a very socially responsible company where if they get requests by a supervisor in a district, they've participated in these cleanups before, and we get the landfill fee waived for them. That's
okay. My concern is someone's taking a walk, they see a mattress down on the side by a creek, they decide to pull it up and put it up on the side of the road because there's a storm that's about to happen. Can they call SoCo, report it?
They can call SoCo Map, but I would not advertise that they put it on the street. They found it there on the street, and I don't want to continue on this conversation, but yes, if someone sees a mattress that's along in the county right of way there, and the county gets a call, it can be picked up as part of the illegal dumping, and it'll be hauled away.
Okay.
But yeah, it's just not a practice to encourage everyone because people can come from their homes and just begin dumping if they have a full, and that we really. The company would get overwhelmed and we'd have trash all over the place. It wouldn't be ideal for the community. But yeah, especially the mattresses. I recognize that a lot of people do that, and there's no reason because they're free to recycle now. You just need to get it to a facility.
They don't have the ability to get it to a facility, so they dump it where they think they can just get rid of it and nobody's going to pay attention to it. So it sounds like you answered my question. Thank you.
Sure.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Cynthia, can you make it, please? We need to move on. I can't hear you.
Yeah, I know. Thank
you. Can't hear you. I'm sorry, Cynthia, we cannot hear you.
Cynthia, you appear unmuted, but your mic must not be working because we can't hear you.
Can here and there in our downtowns, who is paying for getting that picked up?
I don't think we have your full question, Cynthia. You're kind of coming and going in the audio.
Okay. Well, I'm wondering, in our towns, many of us have trash cans that are over full, and we'd like another pickup. So I'm wondering, do we need to then talk with Linda? Does the county contract with Recology to do that trash pickup? You still can't hear me?
Are you speaking of the personal cans or like say
No.
and Gurnville?
No, it would be like, here, let me go.
Sorry, Cynthia, we're losing you.
Yeah.
I-
No, what I'm saying is a trash can in the town. It's not anyone's personal trash can.
No,
But it needs to be emptied more regularly than it is. How do we go about getting that done?
Cynthia, are you talking about a trash can on a county road or on
Yes.
116? Because 116 is what goes through town.
Well, and Bohemian Highway, Main Street.
So where are you speaking of?
Main Street.
Right. So Recology has, as I understand it, and Brandon can elaborate more on this, has historically, before Recology took over from Ratto Group, they provided a service of picking up garbage for free within, the Guerneville area there, some of those, and that it wasn't part of the franchise agreement, and it still isn't. So that was a deal that was made prior to Supervisor Hopkins with the prior supervisor, and they had been doing that. And I believe they were doing that gratis. So is that correct, Brandon?
Yeah, true. I don't believe it was a deal. I believe they were just simply asked to do it,
And they did it.
We're simply doing a favor, I guess.
Okay.
So the service is being provided for free. And, maybe they're willing to do more, but it's not, we can't ask them to do that as part of the franchise agreement because it's not part of it. And, and the minute, we begin including it in the franchise agreement, something like that, then all the unincorporated areas would want this service and would just fall on the back of ratepayers. So historically, if an area like Guerneville and the community, in this case, asked Recology to do, or Ratto before Recology, and they've honored that, or they've done it for the community. It's something they've done independent of the franchise agreement for the community, and that would be something to talk to them about. We don't have any contractual means to force them to do free work.
Okay, thank you.
Very much. Excuse me. We need to move along here. I would like to have a public comment at this point if there are any.
Hi, Jeanette. Yes, we have John Uniacke. John, go ahead and you're able to speak.
John Uniacke. One thing, about a year ago, I did have them pick up a mattress at my house under the 3 or 4 bulk item deals. It had to be dry, but that was their only requirement. The second item is maybe on your next contract, you can put in an educational agreement where when they send out their notices 2 or 3 or 4 times a year, they can tell us to please take your garbage cans back on your property off of the street, because they are left out on our narrow streets all over the place, and people use that to slow the traffic down. That's what they're doing, sticking them out there with the traffic slow down. So the county will not pass an ordinance like many cities have. San Francisco has your garbage cans have to be out of sight. You cannot leave them inside of the street. But here, they will not do a simple one that you have to put your garbage cans off of the street. So maybe you can educate us through the garbage company by putting in the contract that they put that in their flyers. And that would be a good starting point.
Yeah, we can request Recology now and see if they might be able to put something in their next flyer. I don't know if they will or not, but we can ask.
That'd be good.
Okay, thank you very much. I would like to read a comment here on a chat from Kyra Wink, and I'm not asking any verbal comment at this point. I would prefer some sort of a written response. And she says, can these gentlemen provide a description of all ways to dispose of trash in communities? Who to contact, programs, volunteer cleanup opportunities and funding, etc. Where to go for all agencies and what they cover or offer. A list that could be published, or an educational piece from the county to the community. So I would appreciate it if you could give a written response to that. And
Jeanette, sorry to beep at you. I forgot to reset the timer from the last speaker. There are 2 public hands raised now.
okay, we'll do more and then I think we need to move on.
Okay, great. So these are the final 2. Alice Teeter, you should be able to speak at this time. You just need to unmute.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, my question is kind of general when we're talking about under bridges, specifically Hacienda Bridge. We've had major trash pileups there. Our neighborhood on River Drive has worked together to raise funds locally to clean up, and the neighborhood participation has been amazing. But we're wondering how we can help with that. And one of the major questions in the neighborhood cleanup, the sheriffs have been involved at some points. We don't know who actually maintains that space. I'm talking specifically about the east side of the Hacienda Bridge on River Drive. So without knowing whether that's county maintained, what the egress is. So we have some kind of broad questions for the Hacienda Neighborhood Association and for our neighborhood. When we clean out the rest of it, we did use 1-800-GOT-JUNK and got neighborhood donations to clear it. But there's probably about half a truck worth of garbage underneath the bridge that's contained under tarps. There was human waste. There was kind of unspeakable stuff under there. So we were looking at like hazmat. So when we come into an area like that, what is our community plan and how can the county support us when we're cleaning up these kind of major hotspots that bridges become all over the lower Russian River? Thank you.
Yeah, it's a larger question than I'm really equipped to answer tonight. I can bring that back to our director. I mean, the department's participated in some of these cleanups of the homeless encampments in Sonoma County, like the Joe Rodata Trail and some other places, and it's a hard issue. I don't have a good answer for you this evening other than we do have programs to waive dump fees, but I'm not really a big fan of the general public cleaning up some of these homeless encampments because there's sharps, there's needles, there is hazardous waste, and it's not an ideal environment, as far as health and safety to be in. So, but I will bring that back and see if we can get some sort of answer for you on that, specifically to East Hacienda.
Thank you. So one more
Yes,
person.
so Susan Joyce, you're up. You're the last public speaker.
Okay.
You can unmute and proceed.
Hi, I'll make it quick. So years ago in Guerneville, they had somebody that was paid, and I don't know by who, that was the town cleanup person, and they walked around and picked up the litter in the town. Also, another thing was I was part of a Adopt a Highway program, and it worked really well on these country roads. And we were given these clipper things to, kind of pincher things, long things. We were given orange vest bags, big orange bags. And it actually worked really well. We'd go out, 3 of us, I think it was, and we called ourselves Litter Bugs Us. And we'd go pick up litter, and then we'd leave the bags by the side of the road. And I'm not sure who, but somebody picked them up, and it worked really well. And then at one point, we did clean out a homeless camp up on the Neely Hill, and it took like 3 truckloads to get out the mattresses and everything. But by the next year, they were all back again. So it became futile to do that as citizens, and it doesn't speak to the larger problem. So we gave up on that. But those are just some ideas I want to throw out there that seemed to work pretty well for a while in Guerneville. I don't think they still have a person doing that, but it's an idea to just hire somebody somehow to do that. I'm done. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So thank you very much, Glenn and Brandon, for your presentation, and look forward to your written outline of what we can do. So thank you very much. And so I'm going to move on now to proclamations, which there are none, and board and staff reports, ad hoc committee reports. We do want a residential parking permit ad hoc verbal report, and Kyra is here to provide any verbal report. Are you still here? Okay, would you like to speak to the issue?
Yes, hi, good evening, everybody. So our committee has met a couple times since we last gave our last report, and we have finalized a survey, a residential parking permit survey. And I believe it went out on Linda Hopkins' email today to everybody, to the communities. And so our next steps going forward with our committee are to determine better ways to get the word out to all the different communities so that we can get the survey taken by different communities. And then a timeline for how long it'll be out, the survey, whether it's just going to be out to mid-January, the end of January, and then getting the data collated and the report back to the committee here. So that's kind of where we're at today. I'm glad that we've got the survey done.
Yes, I saw it online. Very nice. Do we care to have any comments or any public comments about the report? Okay. I'm going to keep moving on here. The land use committee report. Did you have anything to say?
As mentioned, we pulled the land use ad hoc report, and we will resubmit another report at the conclusion of the January meeting.
Okay, so we need to speak to the January meeting.
That's up to you, Chair. Yes.
Yeah. Well, what the lodge at the Russian River Gernwood Park has requested to continue with presenting this project to the full board, and with them having a presentation, a public hearing, and they have requested that. We've offered them a couple of dates. I have not heard back yet which date they would choose, but based on the information that as the chair, I'm calling a special meeting in January to present the ad hoc committee report regarding the lodge at Gernwood Park, and schedule that for January. But as soon as we find out what dates they want, we will have a special full MAC board meeting to present this project.
Yes, the project be presented by the applicants, and we'll give the full council an opportunity to ask questions and voice concerns.
Absolutely. So before we go on to the next subject, because this is the end of the term, I would like to consider a motion to dissolve all of the ad hocs with the exception of the residential parking permit ad hoc and the land use committee ad hoc, because they're the only ones that still have any activity. So I would entertain a motion.
I so move.
Do I have a second?
I have a question.
The question is that we will dissolve all the ad hocs with the exception of residential parking permit ad hoc and land use committee ad hoc, which will
I have a question about that.
Pardon?
I have a question about that because the vacation rental
Who's speaking?
here.
Okay.
I have a question about that because the
We have
vacation.
a motion on the table, don't we?
I can't approve it then.
Hang on, I think with just a little point of clarification here. I thought I heard a motion on the table. So did I hear a second? Maybe I just missed it. Was there a second?
Yes, there was a second.
Sorry, who was it?
Cynthia.
Thank you. Okay.
Okay. So, discussion of the motion. Vesta?
The vacation rental committee did not complete our work because we need more information, and the cap on vacation rentals is supposed to provide some of that information that would allow us to do a full assessment of vacation rentals and housing in the Lower River area. Do we end the committee and then start a new one after we have that information? Is that how it would function?
Right. Well, basically, the ad hocs really only last a year.
Okay.
We're at the end of the term. And the other part of it is that the other two will be active until February. And I, as the chair, for a smooth transition, I believe that the new chair should have the opportunity to appoint their ad hoc committees, and this will offer them that. And I do believe that I imagine the chair is going to continue a strategic plan committee, a vacation. I would have hopes for all of that. And when it comes to the point of electing the chair and vice chair, that's what you need to ask them is what do they want to do?
Okay, because that information won't be available. Yeah, that information won't be available for probably a year, 2 years. So that would mean that it's logical to end this one and perhaps start the new one.
What are you saying about 2 years?
We won't have the information we need for at least 1 or 2 years.
Yeah, well, then the ad hoc obviously cannot go on that long.
Okay.
So that's the reasoning is basically to clear the deck for a smooth transition, but yet keep the two really active committees in functioning until February.
Okay, thank you.
That was my thinking.
Thank you.
So without any other comments, I would like to ask for a vote unless there are any comments. All in favor? Do you want to do a roll call, please? Cynthia, did you?
Sure, I can do that. Right. Are you ready to roll? Mike Nichols?
I can't tell what.
Aye.
Oh, pardon me.
No, I was just getting, I thought we were going to vote in unison.
Oh.
So I just.
Sorry.
Mike Nichols?
Aye.
Ron Redmond?
Aye.
Pip Marquez de la Plata? He's on mute, but I heard him say mouth aye. Jordan Lebovitz? Sure. Oh, there you are, Jordan.
Aye.
Okay.
Yeah.
Aye. Cynthia Strecker?
Aye.
Vesta Kopstakes?
Aye.
Claudia Sissenfeld? And Jeanette Dillman?
Aye. Thank you very much. So we'll move on to council member report. Terry attended a vegetation meeting that was by invitation, and she would like to give some verbal report. She does have a written report in the packet, so go ahead, Terry.
Thank you.
Point of quick order is the rep for Cazadero. Terry's the alternate. I have to step down from the dais and let Terry provide the report.
Oh, okay.
Okay, thank you.
Can't have two of you.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, great, thanks. Yeah, Pip and I went to this community meeting on December 1st about vegetation management because the county allocated $25 million from the 149 roughly $1 million of the PG&E settlement specifically for vegetation management. And this was one of several community meetings that the county held. The major issues that were discussed that the attendees wanted to see use of those funds for were number one, they wanted to include private roads for vegetation management. There was a big expression of restoring our forests to their native state by getting rid of invasive species and removing undergrowth. We wanted to use grazing animals such as goats to clear areas that were grasslands. Others also said we needed to continue with home hardening. And a lot of people wanted to expand the county chipping program. One person in particular said they were waiting 4 months to get their yard waste chipped. So that was a good thing. There were things that were new to me that I thought were real interesting, such as using air curtain burning. And in fact, Mike talked to me after I sent the meeting notes to him and to you, Jeanette, about the possibility of a biochar facility in West County, so in Cazadero, in fact. Other people also said we needed more education and more enforcement of the county fire code, which delineates that private property or property owners have to keep their property clear, Section 13A of the county fire code. And then there was a lot of talk about one-way roads, ingress and egress, because the growth on those roads prevented emergency evacuation and emergency vehicles from coming in and out. Pip spoke about, it's really important to have a communication plan as part of this project, and many other people concurred with that. And then there was a question about whether the Office of Resiliency and Recovery would continue, and the two folks that ran the meeting, Deputy County Administrator Crystal Guerrero and Yvonne Shu, said that a lot of those roles would be integrated into other county departments, and resiliency would still be a major part of our strategic plan. So it was a really, really good meeting. I'm really glad I attended. And of course, the one of the things they said was that at the December 15th Board of Supervisors meeting, there would be approval of the use of those funds, which indeed happened. So, and in fact, there might be even more money. I believe there's 1.6 million additional funds for a pilot project and some policy planning money. So it was a really, really great, a really great meeting. And, I could share in the chat, if there's time, the list of resources that some of the attendees brought up. So I don't know if anybody has any questions.
Okay, we'll open it up then. Does anyone have any questions? Pip.
It's not a question, but it's just a comment based on what Terry was talking about. I can't understate enough how much commonality there was between people across the county on restoring the natural state of the natural state of vegetation in the county, and how that not only like prevents fire risk, but creates better runoff and a whole bunch of issues with water. So that was really, like, for me in particular, was really like an awesome thing to hear from folks. So if we can get behind that and we can collectively get behind that idea, a lot of this stuff could potentially happen.
Thank you. Cynthia?
Two comments. One is about the Office of Resiliency. When I hosted my town hall on fire, which seems like it was centuries ago, but probably about 2 years, 1.5 years, one of the folks that I got to present was from the Office of Resiliency. And at that point in time, they were talking about developing a program. They seemed pretty close to having already done that, to assist people with home hardening. And it would be a program much like the Skype program. So there are some pros and cons to it, but at any rate, that seemed almost in place at that time. And the other comment is about biochar. I know that the folks, the Native American tribes who have, I'm not sure if the entire process has gone through yet, but they are in, it's a 3-stepped process. And so I think they're still in the second step of buying the Berries Mill. Part of that is to have a biochar facility using forest products, obviously local forest products. So I think that's a great idea, and I'm glad that you know, we are going to be doing that, or someone will.
Okay, thank you. Any public comment, Leo? Okay. Any more, does that kind of cover it for you, Terry?
Yeah, that's great.
Okay.
Great meeting.
Okay, thank you very much. So we're getting close to the end. Any requests for agenda items for February? Strategic plan? Okay.
It's been pretty rough. Yeah. It's been rough.
Hello?
Sorry. Economically, educationally, and emotionally. Disaster after disaster.
Sounds like listening to some other program. Okay, come on with your agenda items. Cynthia, you must have one.
Actually, it's not an agenda item, but it sounds to me like I sort of was under the impression that the January meeting would be a special meeting just to take up the presentation of the lodge. Are you saying that there are going to be other items on that meeting as well?
No, I'm asking for agenda items for the regular February meeting.
Okay, February. Yeah,
and yes, that a January meeting is a special meeting and there will only be one agenda item. Okay. I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'm not shy. I move to adjourn.
Okay, Claudia.
Who was second?
Okay.
Who was second?
I'll second. Or anyone.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much. I have to say this has been, I've been retired from working for close to 20 years. And I have to say, this has been like a full-time job. And it has been quite an experience. I have learned a lot. And I hope to keep these thoughts in my mind. I appreciate everyone who has helped me out. And it's been a tremendous support for me. And thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good evening.
Thank you.
Evening.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks, Jeanette.
Bye.
Thank you, everybody. Thanks, Jeanette.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jeanette.
Thanks to the community that stayed on, the 15 of you still there. Good night.